What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. Man United have confirmed the appointment of Ruben Amorim as the head coach. He has signed a contract until June 2027 with a club option of an additional year. He will start on November the 11th. So he's got the international break and then it's Ipswich. It's a done deal. 2.5 years, 12-month option, and United view his style as personality, energy, and a record of developing talent as a perfect fit, Sam. And also, in typical fashion, it's announced right before we was about to go live, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll prep him for a preview, Chelsea game, all that sort of stuff, and then that goes out the window because United love to do shitty timing.
Yeah. Are we are we excited? Are we what's the initial feeling now? We know it's been coming for a while, haven't we? So we've had time to discuss it, but now United have confirmed it. Does it feel any more real at all?
Yeah, no, it's nice to see the official and that. Obviously, a lot of these things, transfers, that kind of stuff, we probably know about it a week or two before it officially gets announced. But obviously, things can go wrong in that time, as we've seen a couple of times. So I think, once you get the official announcement or in transfers, he's holding up the shirt, you're like, okay, this is done deal. We've got him. So yeah, it's nice to see. It'd be interesting to see what he says at the press conference at Sporting tonight because they play tonight, don't they? It'd be interesting to see what he says there. It'd be interesting to see what other sort of Man United and the things come out of that as well. But yeah, it's just going to be a sort of waiting game now, isn't it? Until the Ipswich game. So we've got 3 games and an international break to sort of suffer through before we get to see what he can do.
In general, he's got a massive fucking job on it. I'm sure he's. We know from his personality and his character, he's very confident. He's probably very sure of himself. And as most managers do, he's probably sat there thinking, I can be that guy to turn it around and bring them back to glory. And the accolades I'll get for that after all these coaches have tried, then I'll be right up there and considered, one of the best managers. But equally, he's got to be a little bit anxious, hasn't he, slightly as a human being, knowing what's going on at United, knowing the media pressure at United. He has to consider those things, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he'll be fully versed in that because obviously he did his coaches with Jose at United, didn't he? So I'm sure he got a little bit of a taste of what it was like there. I'm sure he's spoken to Bruno and Dallo, who knows very well, obviously, with the Portugal connections and Sporting connections. So I think you'll be aware of that, and obviously it's a different beast once you actually get in there and then you're surrounded by it. But I think you would not take this job unless you had extreme confidence in yourself. Ten Hag had that extreme confidence in himself, but obviously it didn't work out. And I think, you have to come in and be like, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm going to play, and you either like it or you don't. And then the club has to back him and be like, give him time to do this. It's going to be interesting to see what players sort of fall out, what sort of players come back in, like what sort of players he wants to bring in. Because obviously he plays with a back three, the wing backs and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of open questions, I think, of him coming in. Also, what happens to Ruud van Nistelrooy? That's a big question.
Yeah, well, I was going to touch on that. I was going to say, like, not even just Van Nistelrooy. There's obviously Darren Fletcher who's there, who is kind of the link between the youth academy and the first team. And then there's a couple of others like Rene Hack. What's going to happen with him? His reports going back to Netherlands. So all that's up in the air. And there was reports that Amorim's known to want to bring 4 coaches and a sports scientist with him from Sporting, and he'll confirm his backroom team soon. But I mean, it's on most occasions they do bring their own guys in it, and then the other ones who are kind of there kind of go to the wayside. I was listening to Talk the Devils last night, and they was mentioning about McLaren, like that was a situation because Ten Hag had already worked with him, basically. So that was kind of like they already knew each other. Whereas I think Amorim will probably look at the previous results and everything that's been going on, and they'll be like, no, I want to change, and this is, I'm presuming, I don't know, but a massive job for him to try and get this right finally. Tactically, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Like you said, in terms of certain players fitting in. What's your initial gut feeling telling you about who do you think maybe get left by the wayside with this new manager coming in?
Xerxes worries me. I don't know where he fits in. I know he likes to play with almost two type of forwards, doesn't he? Like 2 narrow forwards.
Yeah, like
so
2
maybe you can see. Yeah, so maybe you can see him working in that sort of capacity, possibly. But yeah, he worries me. I don't know where he fits in. He's quite worrying. And then there's a couple of midfielders like you think Ugati's definitely going to start, isn't he? Like he's going to be his guy. Like that's going to be the guy that he goes to. And then it's Kobe, Casemiro, Bruno, and Mount. Maybe Mount finds himself on the way out because of the injuries and stuff like that. Can't be relied upon. So maybe he finds himself on the way out. And then Harry Maguire. I don't know if he could play in a back three. The way he wants to set up, I don't think he's quick enough, and I don't think he's got the mobility that I think Amorim requires. I know Delict and Leach are not that quick either, but I think Lenny Yoro is. I think that three was probably the one he goes for. So yeah, there's a couple players there who are on the way out, and then are our wing backs good enough? Like, is Dallo good enough? Can Mazraoui play in that wing back system? And then obviously Luke Shaw and Terrell Malacia reportedly going to be back for the Ipswich game, but how reliable are they?
No,
and are they actually going to be back? And then it's just like, then you turn to like Harry Amas. Is he ready to step up and stuff? So the wing backs are a big question for me as well.
And likewise, I think something to be considered is, well, what if he wants to bring a couple of players over from Sporting, right? Players that he trusts, players that we've spoken about Gikaraz's relationship with him, that he only stayed at the club because Amorim was there and he had interest. Shumlin's another one who you're a fan of. But the one thing I will say the difference is because we got a little bit annoyed, didn't we, with players going from the Eredivisie to play for Ten Hag. You look at like the majority of his team, a lot of players from there. But with the Portuguese league, I think the transition that we've seen, it seems to be a bit more seamless, doesn't it? In terms of like your Bernardo Silvas, Edisons, these kind of ones, they seem to fit a bit better. So maybe that's not as much as a concern, but you would think he wants to. I know there was rumours about vetoes and stuff like that. We don't know the specifics yet, but surely he'll want his own kind of profile of players in, won't he?
I think it was Laurie Whitwell on Talking Devils. He mentioned the reason they haven't just gone and got him and like immediately is because they potentially might have to, like you said, might have to go back in, have a relationship with Sporting and get some of these players. They don't want to piss him off and basically annoy him by saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to take your manager in front of these really important games against
and all
City,
your best
against
players,
Braga, and all your best players." So I think that's sort of part of the reasoning. I think so. You probably might see, maybe not in January, but maybe in the summer next year, you might see him like come in for it. I mean, I'm all for bringing Gyökeres in. Like, I think he's a fantastic player, a phenomenal player. Like, great, and I love Hjumlund. Apparently, Gyökeres and Hjumlund were the two that were really angry that he's left because they stayed at the club this summer because of him. So
and you can see why they would be pissed off, innit? Absolutely, because he's asking for loyalty. He's saying, guys, if we stick with us, we're going to go and win the league, we're going to do this. They've obviously started the season really, really well. And then he's like, oh, yeah, United are coming, so I'm going to go. So I would get a bit... Maybe that's broken down the relationship a little bit. I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe.
But the one thing you get from hearing things like that and hearing, the fans outside the stadium in the games, I've seen clips of him. And I've seen, I think there's a couple of reporters in Portugal right now kind of on the ground doing the research amongst fans. And there's a lot of people unhappy that he's going. Yeah. So he is adored there for what he's done at Sporting Lisbon. And what he's done is what we need right now in terms of going into Portugal, breaking that mould of Benfica and Porto as the typical ones who win it. The question is, can he do it? It's a different game in the Premier League, isn't it, with Arsenal and City?
Yeah. It's obviously you eras are starting to come to an end, aren't they? Because but Pep is looking like he could potentially leave this summer. Like, he's got a year left and he's no signs of signing a new one as of yet. Klopp has gone now. Arteta is yet to win anything. So there's that. Obviously, Chelsea are sort of rocketing up the table at the minute, who we faced on Sunday. So it's very hard to break up that thing. So I think he'll do well to sort of get in the top four regularly. I think when you look at the sort of potential competition, to win something is something else. But there are some nice parallels. Like, what was it, 19 years they haven't won the title for Sporting? It's been similar amount of time since we won a title, and he came in and did it. So yeah, I hope if he's got the confidence to back himself, I hope he does well, and I'll back him all the way. But yeah, it's going to be interesting tactically. Tactically is the one that fascinates me the most because I don't expect it.
Now it should be 2 seconds, so just give me a second and then we'll. I think it's reconnected.
Okay, we're back.
Are we back?
Yeah, I've seen the stream.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's just connected with quite literally an Ethernet cable. Anyhow, that's kind of taken away my thought process then, because I really wanted to get into tactical. I think there was a lot of people who were saying about, is United really a back three, a back five kind of club and all that kind of stuff? And I'm like, well, to be honest, because of the failed coaches, I don't want to say failed, it's quite harsh, but because of the number of coaches that we've had in and how different they've all been and how we've tried to recruit their style and their needs, we've ended up with this proper mixed bag of players who have all, Rashford's had, 6 different coaches at this point. Same thing with Luke Shaw and a couple of others. So, to be honest, what is the right thing? I don't think there is a right style anymore. It's just win games, isn't it?
Yeah. Use the players that you've got to the correct system that will fit them the best, like that gets the best out of them. That's what it is. I've just seen a stat as well. Sporting have got an XG difference of plus 68 since the start of last season, the best of any side in Europe's top 6 leagues. To put into context, Man United's XG difference, do you want to take a guess what that is?
What, from a season or
from last season?
From last season, minus 11 or something.
Very close, minus 12.8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
insane. That's
crazy,
insane,
isn't it? Crazy. And do you know what I saw as well the other day? Pep's is like, since he's joined, is like plus 150 or something, plus 200 goals.
Mental.
So yeah, he I mean, we don't need to reference Ten Hag stats. We all know him. We're moving into this new era now, and that's what it's about. Dan Errington saying, I'm eager to find out what happens with Rude once Amorim is in the door. Daryl Tolher saying, afternoon, lads. Looking forward to Amorim coming in. Glad Ineos acted quickly. Hopefully Rude stays, but if not, at least the pressure is off a bit so we can enjoy coaching the next few matches. Absolutely agree with that, Daryl. Interesting to note, he's the head coach and not manager. Shows Ineos and the board are in control of things. Ruben left to coach the team. Can only be positive. Welcome to the club, Ruben Amorim. Does that surprise you though, Sam?
No.
Because we was discussing head coaches like your Mourinho's and Peps and these guys. They are very strong in what kind of players they want and who they want to recruit. But like you said, this is a younger manager. So are we going? Well, we are going down that mold. But does it surprise you, I suppose? Because they do want a lot of control, don't they? As Chavi would say.
But that's he loves the control, doesn't he? He loves the control. That's what every club model is really based on now, isn't it? Like the manager, so the head coach is in and he manages the team, he coaches the players, tactically selects the team, and then transfers are really handled by like a committee or a director of football and that sort of stuff. Liverpool does it, Arsenal does it. Like Liverpool got that Michael Edwards in, haven't they? Arsenal got, is it Edu? And I can't remember the other guy. Like
it was
Chelsea
cheeky at City, wasn't it?
City, but he's leaving. Yeah, so that's how every club operates. Like it's not done, but it's not a Fergie type management anymore. And that's what Ten Hag came in originally, didn't he? He had all this control and all this different stuff going on. So obviously Ineos wanted to move away from that model, which is why they couldn't negotiate his contract to an extension that they just activated the +1 because they couldn't negotiate the giving up the control. So I think the mention of the veto and people going, oh, he's gonna have no say in transfers. He's obviously gonna have a say and he's obviously gonna have input. But when it comes down to this, do we get this player or not? It's going to come down to the committee and the data people and the director of football and all of that. It's not going to come down to the manager where he goes, no, pay 80 million for Anthony. He's not going to have that sort of power. So that's the difference. And I think that's the right move because if we want to sort of be data based, which I think Ineos seem to be, you want to look at like, okay, injury status, like goals per game, blah, 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 all that different stuff. You want to look at that stuff, personalities, etc. You want to go deep into the data and find the right players for the right thing. Whereas previous regimes were just like, oh, let's rely on Ten Hag to bring in his little black book and just get the players he wants and he knows. Before that, we just signed whoever the shiniest toy was, weren't we? It's like Varane, Sancho, Cavani and stuff like that. I think this is going to be a different approach and I like it.
I believe Liverpool rely heavily on data for a lot of the stuff that they do in terms of recruitment and management. And that's kind of why they brought Arne Slot in as well. He was very favourable in that situation. I'm not saying it always works out, but there is a lot of clubs that are leaning on that. And in terms of the relationship, how a manager, because he obviously wants his own players, but how I understand it, how it worked, at least at City, was Pep will say to Tiki Bergstein, for example, look, I want these kind of players. I want like a dribbler who's good in the channels, who will run at his man and he'll cause problems. Right, we've got this guy. We've got, and Jeremy Doku was one of those in that kind of group. And he goes, right, let's go with that. That's how their relationship works. Obviously, it's different every other club, but I imagine it might be a similar thing where Ruben Amorim goes, look, I need a defensive midfielder.
Or need a left back.
Left back, yeah. I was just using a thing, but definitely need a left back. Who's more of a wing back, suits this kind of thing. Have a look in Europe, see you can bring up, and then we'll work with it. I imagine that's how it's going to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds like that. There'll be like options of like, all right, this is the option who's ready to come into the team immediately and start, but it's probably going to cost a bit of money. There's this guy who we think could be ready in a couple of years. He's a bit cheaper, but he's a bit more raw. And then there's this guy who's a young prospect who we could feed into the young team and then eventually get ready. And they'll have like options all the way through. And then he could sort of pick who he wants to go with and obviously work within budgets, because obviously if you get a ready-made player, they're going to cost more, which means you got less to spend in other areas. And I think that's kind of how it's going to work.
Look, I know there's some United fans that they have a little bit of PTSD because of Ten Hag, and we was all really excited, and I remember just being enthusiastic about like his style at Ajax, and then obviously he couldn't replicate that over in England. So we do have that kind of in the back of our minds. But regardless which way, in isolation, Ruben Amorim is one of the most exciting coaches. Highly rated. He's only young. He's like 38, 39. He's won multiple titles with Sporting, and he's got that character and ego which I think Ten Hag lacked at times. So I'm personally excited by it. There's a stat here, Samson. Since the start of 2022-23 season, Sporting have scored 5+ goals in 11 separate games under Ruben Amorim. In the same period, Eric Ten Hag's Man United lost more games when conceding 5+ goals in a game than winning with 5+. So all the stats that you're seeing are great. But again, it's the Portuguese league. He's still done a really well job, but the Premier League will absolutely swallow anyone up, and we've seen it time and time and time again. So I really do wish him all the luck, because he's going to need it, and I think he'll be surprised by how big of a club we are, how big the media scrutiny is. It's almost like he should have a chat with us, isn't it? Before he goes in, he's like, what do I need to expect, lads? And we could just give him a big giant list.
I'll have to take you for a pint and go, Ruben, mate. There's so much. There's so much you need to know.
So we'll take him into the press room, and we'll just be like, right, see him over there, Neil Custard. Don't speak to him. Samuel Luckhurst over there as well. Don't speak to him. He'll ask just stupid fucking questions, and he'll be negative all the time. You know, you Lorries and Ians and these kind of guys. Great. Interact with them. Finger. Just ban him. Just ban them ones, and that's half you fucking worries sorted straight off the bat. I think we could give him a portfolio to help him, but Villa do it in Fergie style, but suppose big difference between Villa and United. There's nothing concrete that comes in, plays a back three. Guardiola changes his formation, so what to say, Amorim doesn't. Probably be something like, here's a list of 5 players, pick your top 3 in order, and we'll go after them. Yeah, I imagine so. But I mean, equally, Sam, I don't think you could put all the trust in Ineos to get this right, in terms of if they want to be in charge of this operation. You saw what happened at Nice. I know there's slightly different people involved, but it's not to say it's going to go perfectly well, is it?
No, it has to be, everybody has to be at the top of their game and be cohesive together, working together, and it has to be like sort of mutual respect and sort of compromise as well, because sometimes the manager's not going to get his way, and then sometimes Ineos are going to have to give way to the manager. So there's got to be a good working relationship there, and I think that's happening in other clubs, hasn't it? Where the managers, like, obviously you see Eddie Howe's falling out with what's the guy's name that we want, Paul Mitchell. Him, they don't get on, did it? And it was that, obviously you saw the result of that in the summer. They couldn't get transfers over the line and things like that. So you can see when the relationship doesn't work, it's catastrophic for the sort of team's recruitment. So yeah, he apparently speaks 3 languages, I think: Portuguese, Spanish, and English really well. Like, he's fluent in all of them. So
especially in our team, when you've got so many Brazilians and South Americans and Portuguese players.
So that'll work really well. So I think in terms of attracting players, when he has to go speak to them, he's obviously got the languages covered there. So I think he'll be able to work with the setup that we've got, hopefully, and hopefully Ineos give him a bit of leeway in the first sort of year or so to get his feet under the table and get used to the club, because obviously, like you said, it's a big step up. Sporting's a big club, but United is just another level. Like, it's a big step.
Andy Willis disconnected. What the fuck is going on here? OBS studio disconnected. We can animal back again, I think. Jesus Christ. All right. It's all going left, right, and centre here. We talked about some of the players who you might be worried about, but you mentioned speak Spanish, Portuguese. Do you have a feeling maybe Bruno, your Dallos, might have an upturn in form? Anyone else on your mind you think is going to be performing well?
He probably looks at Dallo as his first choice wing back, doesn't he? Because Dallo likes to bomb forward anyway, so that he's going to be in there. Obviously, defensive capabilities, but maybe that he don't have as much defensive responsibility once we move to a back three. Maybe that's the sort of like thinking there. But yeah, Bruno will be a big part of that. I think Ugarte I've mentioned as well. I think he's going to be a big part of his team because obviously he worked with him at Sporting. I think Lenny Yoro is going to be interesting because he's probably going to get his first minutes under Amorim, isn't he? Like he's back in November, so he's probably going to get his first sort of minutes under Amorim, so that'll be interesting.
That's mad, isn't it, when you think about that?
Yeah. I think Højlund will be really key under him. Striker, like I think he's going to be really interesting under Amorim as well. Hopefully he gets thing. He likes direct players, so Rashford, Garnacho could be really interesting as well. So yeah, there's a lot of players there who I think he'll be really excited to work with and get the best out of, and sort of increase their output from what they've been doing last season and this season, because obviously it's not been good enough.
Well, when we were talking about the recruitment of Sporting players before, I believe there's a wing back he has at Sporting called Quenda, who's highly touted, extremely talented. I mean, it cost him about 10 million euros, I think, or something along the lines of that. So he might look to bring in those kind of players. It's weird, isn't it, with wing backs, because it's not like I don't feel like there's a lot of them. Do you know what I mean? Like if you used to go buy a midfielder now, like a 10, there's fucking millions of them. You can find wing backs, and really good specific wing backs are harder to come by, I think. Because even the left back market, remember when we were trying to identify talents?
Yeah.
I don't think there's loads, but there's some good options in there, like your Alphonso Davises. I know you like Gutierrez from Girona as well.
Could Frimpong come back into the mix?
Frimpong was someone I thought of instantly.
Yeah,
I thought, but then
the wing
the
back.
Dutch thing, I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah, as a wing back, very attacking, very forward thinking. Like, did he have a release clause as well, like a cheap?
Yeah,
release
it was
clause?
like 30 odd million, and I think he's perfect. Like he's a really good wing back.
That could be an option as well for him if he wants to sort of like have a left back ready to go, like left wing back ready to go.
Rokan saying, I think when we fight Ipswich, we doesn't play with the first team, but Team B. I don't get what that means. But look, he's got the international break, hasn't he, when he comes in?
Yep.
That's the good thing that I'm happy about, because he's not coming in, straight into a Chelsea game, for example, where it's like a bit of a media storm. He's got time to work with the players, coach the players, and then hopefully against Ipswich, you'll see a new United. You'll see what it's all about. I think that's going to be I've never been more interested in an Ipswich game in my life to see how that kind of plays out. So, yeah, happy he's here. I think we both agree he's got a giant fucking job on his hands. Wish him all the best. And, yeah, can't wait to get into it, Sam.
Yeah, youngest manager since Sir Matt Busby, apparently.
Crazy.
So, that's interesting.
Yeah. Good luck, Ruben. That is what I would say. Good luck. And, we're going to be live for the Chelsea preview. Like, we did have it initially planned at 12 o'clock, but obviously this news decided to break now. So me and Shreyas are going to do the live preview around 6. And then we've got the Prem predictions that'll probably drop tomorrow around in the afternoon time to get you ready for the Premier League action. And then obviously all the stuff from Chelsea pre-match and post-match. So busy. Please do leave a like on the video for us before you head off. Subscribe to the channel. Ruben Amorim is now the 6th coach to take over Manchester United, permanent coach at least, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Here's to a new era, I suppose. Cheers, Sam.
Cheers, man.